Okay, we should be good to go.
Okay. I want to welcome everybody to the Volunteer Tennessee Executive Committee meeting. Today, we're going to be reviewing and voting on Executive Committee and Commission minutes, the Memorandum of Agreement, and AmeriCorps funding issues. And if we have time, discuss options for the conference and the Governor's Volunteer Star Awards. And then we'll have some time for a public comments. Thank you all for being here today. Our first order of business is to confirm a quorum. There are currently 7 voting members of the Executive Committee, so we will need 4 voting members for a quorum. Jessica, would you please do a roll call for us?
Yes. Destiny Brown.
Here.
Nathan Farner.
Present.
Greg Lyles.
Here.
Terry Silver.
Here.
Betty White. Eileen Woolham. And Yvonne Wood. And Jessica Youngbloom here.
Okay. All right, thank you. Our next order of business is to approve a statement of necessity due to scheduling conflicts. Less than a quorum of Volunteer Tennessee Executive Committee members is present in person for the meeting today. So under Tennessee Code annotated section 8-44-108, the Volunteer Tennessee Commission is allowed to rely on the participation of members by electronic or other means to constitute a quorum, only upon determination by the Commission that a necessity exists. The Executive Committee is scheduled to consider the time-sensitive approvals of the Memorandum of Agreement, 2025 AmeriCorps Formula Recommendation Revision, and 2026 AmeriCorps Funding Timeline. Do I hear a motion to approve the determination of necessity to proceed with the meeting with a quorum to include electronic and phone participants based on the time sensitivity of the matter on today's agenda?
So
I
moved.
so move.
Do I have a second? Okay. Jessica, would you please do a roll call?
Yeah, and just so I can confirm, did Eileen make the motion and then Nathan second it? Is that what we're?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Destiny,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Betty, Eileen, aye. Yvonne, and Jessica, aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Our next order of business is to review and approve minutes of the commission meeting from May the 2nd, 2025. Hopefully you've received and reviewed these minutes on August the 27th. If you need a moment, let's take just a minute to review. Does anyone have any corrections or additions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Jessica, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Destiny,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Betty, Eileen,
Aye.
Yvonne, Jessica, abstain.
Okay. Next, we need to review and approve minutes of the last executive committee meeting on May the 19th, 2025. Again, you should have received these on August the 27th. Take just a moment, let Jim bring those up and review just for a moment, if you can for us, Jim.
Yeah, hold on. So Betty, I just called Betty. She called me and I missed her call and I called her back.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sending her the she's having trouble joining.
Oh, okay.
So I'm let me send the link to her.
You're doing double duty.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me. Okay, now I've minimized my my email And let me share the screen with the minutes. Okay.
Okay. This is from May the 19th. Okay. Does anyone have any corrections or additions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, Nathan and Eileen, thank you. Jessica, would you please do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Destiny,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Greg. Greg. He's saying aye. He's
Yeah,
on
he's
mute.
muted. There you go.
Terry,
Aye.
Betty, Eileen,
And
Aye.
sorry, Jessica. Betty has joined, but it looks like maybe she's muted.
oh, okay. Betty,
Yes.
Eileen, aye, she's on mute. And then Yvonne.
Yes.
Okay.
And
That passes.
Jessica, could you sign both of those sets of minutes and then email them to me?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, we need to approve the memorandum of agreement. Hopefully, this executive committee has had time to review it thoroughly. We spent, I think, 4 or 5 meetings together, going over this and trying to come to an agreement on several areas. Do you have any questions or comments to add to this draft for the memorandum of agreement?
Just for clarification and awareness for all to remind us, we
Yes.
ended up with pretty much staying the way it was originally written.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's
I thi-
well, how are we structured? Is the structure still
Yes, Destiny,
Okay.
the structure's still the same. We had some minor revisions, um, mostly to clarify roles, which and Betty, let's see, Betty was there. Jessica, you were there for some of the meetings, right?
Yes.
If there's anything that you feel like it needs to stand out, but I really feel with Tracy, Betty, myself, Jessica, Adam, Eugene, and Sarah, I felt like we worked well together to get this document up to where it needs to be, where it is today.
Well,
Thank
and
you,
Adam
Terry.
was also in that committee
Okay, I didn't mean to skip Adam. I thought I said Adam, but yes.
from FNA, so yeah,
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
Tracy.
But yes,
yes.
Destiny, it is essentially the same. There was just clarification of roles.
Yes.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I
Mhm.
didn't miss anything.
Thank you.
And if I can, so an Adam and the FNA team are everybody on both sides seems to be content with the way that it is outlined. Is that accurate?
That's
Mhm.
correct. Yes. Any other comments or questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay,
Who was the
Thank-
second? Was that Yvonne? Yep. Okay.
yes. Jessica,
right.
would you please do a roll call vote, please?
Destiny,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Betty,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Yvonne,
Yes.
and I abstain. Jessica abstain. Sorry for the recording. All right, that passes unanimously. Sorry.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, we're going to move on now to grants discussion. Eileen, would you like to get us started on our grants discussion?
Actually, I'd like to defer to Jim if I could. I
Yes.
I'm actually on vacation and my mind is somewhere else.
I totally understand. And,
Sorry
and we
about that.
have, we did spend considerable time, thankfully, at our meeting going over these. So Jim, if you would take over for the grants discussion, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I am very happy to try and keep Eileen in her vacation state of mind.
Mhm. Agreed.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing is the conflict of interest. And Betty, did you send your conflict of interest, Betty?
Yeah, just this morning.
Got it. Okay, good. And did you, sorry, I haven't had a chance to see it. Did you have a conflict?
No.
Okay, so I believe the only two people who identified conflicts were Nathan and Destiny, but with the AmeriCorps formula part. So there's other parts of the voting and discussion that don't include that. So I think we can go to the first part, which is the review and also update on the competitive process.
Okay.
So this is the chart that we presented, or the staff prepared for the commission meeting on August the 8th. And so these 13 programs are the ones that we submitted to the competitive process. The ones that are in either no shading or yellow shading were ones that were offered funding at the competitive process. And just really quickly, the national competitive process, Tennessee can send our best programs up to compete against programs from across the country. The AmeriCorps agency makes that decision on which programs to fund. So that decision is made at the federal level. But what it does is the more programs we can get funded in the competitive process, it frees up formula funds so that we can have more formula programs. Not more. I mean, we can have the same number of programs, but it adds to the total amount of money that Tennessee has for AmeriCorps. So they offered full funding for City Year in Memphis. They offered full funding for Martha O'Brien Center, but Martha O'Brien Center decided that they did not want to continue, so they declined funding. They offered full funding for Memphis Teacher Residency, but that funding was on hold by the Office of Management and Budget. The good update is that funding has now been released by the Office of Management and Budget, and we're working with the AmeriCorps agency to process the award letter to get the funds actually to Memphis Teacher Residency. Now, because of the timing, they had to change their members from the full-time slot, which is 1,700 hours of service over a calendar year, to a 1,200 hour slot, because the program typically would have already started in August, and it's a school-based program. So once school is over, their members don't really have an opportunity to get additional hours. So they had to go from 1,700 hours to 1,200 hours. And so that means that their total amount that they're requesting has gone from $1 million to $570,500 to reflect that reduction in the number of hours that the members will be serving. But the good news is that the money's been released and we're working on getting the award letter. Relay Graduate School of Education and Memphis Teacher Residency were both offered funding. Well, Relay was offered full funding, but they didn't want to go into the competitive process. And so they asked us if they could stay in the formula process. And so we moved them back into the formula. Teach for America, you can see they asked for $80,000. AmeriCorps offered them no money, but all of the members that they requested. And Teach for America asked if they could go into the formula portfolio as well at that request of $80,000. And then Tennessee's Community Assistance Corporation was offered just a tiny bit below what they requested. They asked for $808,228, and AmeriCorps offered them $808,070. So essentially full funding. So the Memphis Teacher Residency is the only one that's different from what we presented back in August, because those funds have been released, but they'll be getting a slightly lower amount. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has questions about that.
I have a follow-up question. Since they're going to be receiving lower amount, are we able to use that money in a different capacity? And if so, how is that affecting the formula?
That's a good question. We can't, because the competitive money isn't Volunteer Tennessee's money. It's the federal money, because they're the ones who, so they can use it for other things, but Tennessee can't. So unfortunately, it doesn't add to the amount that we can offer to other programs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. That's a good question. Other questions? And this doesn't require a vote, again, because the decision's made at the federal level. So this is just more for information for everybody on what happened with that national competitive process. So Terry, if you're okay, I can move on to the AmeriCorps formula part.
And we need to, those with conflicts need to mute themselves until after this discussion. I believe Destiny and Nathan.
Right.
Okay.
And the two of you can stay on if you'll just stay on mute during the discussion and vote. Okay. So the AmeriCorps formula, this chart is the same as what we presented. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is maybe open up the Excel version of this so that I can so that I can freeze the panes and move it around a little bit. Oh, and I opened up the wrong one. So let me stop that and open up the right one. Okay. All right. So lots of color in this. The bottom line is that at the time of the May meeting, there were a lot of unknowns. We didn't know which programs were going to get funded in the competitive process. We didn't even know how much formula money Tennessee was going to have. So what the commission approved at that time, rather than approving specific amounts, was a general funding strategy to maintain funding for existing programs or programs that were already in the Tennessee portfolio as best we could. So through a couple iterations, what we ended up with is, let me make this bigger. What's in this kind of set of last columns that was presented to the commission on August the 8th. Essentially, we were able to offer full funding for all of the programs and to bring on one new program. So awesome. A couple, yeah, it was really good. A couple explanations. Bridges USA, they also decided that they were not going to continue along with Martha O'Brien Center. So that's why they are funded at zero, because they didn't want to continue. City Year Memphis, I mentioned there, so they're in the competitive process. When we started out, all of this we didn't know, and so the grants committee and the staff talked about just including all of the programs, including the ones that had been sent to the competitive process for formula consideration. But City Year got funded competitively, so we took them out of this chart. Again, we moved Martha O'Brien, and Tennessee's Community Assistance Corporation also got competitive funding, so we removed them from this chart. Let's see. So these at the top are continuation. So each program applies once every 3 years. And in between, they're what's considered continuation. So as long as they're performing okay and they're not having serious problems, typically the commission approves them for their continuation years to keep going. But at the end of that 3-year grant process or grant timeframe, they all have to recompete against any brand new program and against other programs that are also recompeting. So the continuations are the ones at the top. So the ones that were at the end of their 3-year process are the ones that are down at the bottom of the chart. So a couple caveats about this. We were able, again, to fully fund most of the programs. Clinch Powell, even though we offered them more funding after kind of the craziness of having to do severe cuts to programs to maintain at what we thought was going to be the level, assuming that none of the competitive programs got funded, they decided they were going to focus on a single program component. And previously they did three different distinct things, and they decided they wanted to just focus on one. And so they requested a lower funding amount than what they had originally requested. The other thing I'll note is Memphis Teacher Residency is in this chart, again, because at the time their funding was on hold for the competitive process, and staff recommended that we keep them in the formula process until that was resolved. Public Education Foundation, they requested a lower funding amount than what they originally requested, just because they ended up, because of the craziness of not knowing what was going on, they ended up with fewer placements for their members. And the Teach for America, theirs, they kind of the same thing. They originally requested 80,000, but by the time everything was said and done and we knew how much funding we had, they only had placements for 65 members, and so they requested 65. And then the one brand new program that had the highest review scores. Now they did have, through our risk assessment, they did have a high risk based on our pre-award risk assessment, but they had the highest review scores. And so staff recommended funding them at their full request. So
Okay.
that's kind of the brief explanation. I'm happy to go into detail about any specific program if anybody wants. But before anybody asks any questions, I will say also the final formula allocation, we learned between the May meeting and the August meeting, we learned that it was a little bit over 3.8 million. We weren't sure whether or not we'd be able to use this 1 million in unexpended funds from a previous grant. It turns out that we can, but that $1 million is what we had kind of set aside for Memphis Teacher Residency, but we don't need to use that now because they're in the competitive process, so we don't need to worry about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Okay,
I have a
Go
question.
thank you, Eileen.
Sure. That 1 million that we had set aside for Memphis Teacher Residency, can we use that for something else or to fund another new program that we weren't able to fund before?
That's a great question. The bottom line answer is potentially we could, but that money, that million, and I hid that. I hid that to be able to get all the programs kind of on one screen, but that didn't really work. That money is from what's called a fixed amount grant, and the programs have to apply specifically for a fixed amount grant when they submit their applications. And all of the new applicants were what's called a cost reimbursement grant. And so we wouldn't really be able to switch them over and use that funding. And that funding is actually, we're already past the end of that 3-year grant for that fixed award. And so we had to get a no cost extension on the federal award to be able to use that $1 million. And it's only available for 1 year. So it would only be available through July of 2026. Which Memphis Teacher Residency was okay with that because their program is based on a school year. But most of the other programs, we give them the flexibility to go from August 1 of 1 year through December of the following year, so that they can, if they have any challenges getting members started, they've got a little bit more flexibility. So there's a couple reasons why we can't use that money, but it is still there. Now, because we don't really have plans to use it this year, and we're at the end of that 3-year grant, we'll have to return it.
Jessica has a question.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim semi-answered my question of what will happen with that funding.
Okay.
But I guess to follow up, does that have any negative like consequences in the future regarding us not utilizing that funding, or is it's kind of a wash?
It doesn't. I mean, the AmeriCorps agency doesn't like to see commissions return money, and I don't like it either. But the reason we have that unexpended money is because what often happens is, so for example, let's just pick this Teach for America. They are one of the fixed amount grants. And, they've asked for $100,000 for 100 members. If they can only enroll 95 members for this current program year, they can't spend that other $5,000. They can't. They just can't spend it. So that money then goes back into the unexpended pot, and then we try and use it the next year. But over 3 years, trying to reassign that money and utilize it, we eventually we end up with money that we just can't get out the door because programs aren't able to enroll all their members, or their members might leave early. And for the fixed amount grants, their reimbursement is based on the member hours. So if their members aren't serving hours, they don't get reimbursement. So even though they may have enrolled all their members, if they have any members that leave early, they can't then get the full reimbursement for that member. So it becomes a bit of a challenge to try and balance, giving programs the amount that they think they need versus trying to make sure that we're spending all the money.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2025 AmeriCorps formula recommendation revision as presented?
I so move.
Thank you, Eileen. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Greg. Jessica, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Since Destiny and Nathan cannot be a part of the conversation, do I still call their name?
No.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. Greg,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Betty,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Yvonne,
Yes.
and Jessica abstains.
Okay. So that motion carries. And we can ask Destiny and Nathan, you can unmute yourselves now. And we'll talk about the 2026 AmeriCorps funding timeline. And Jim, would you please start that discussion?
Yeah, of course. So the timeline is what the commission uses to kind of set out its plan for the next funding process. So the text part of it at the top outlines a couple things. And unfortunately, we still don't have answers to some of these things that are highlighted. Now, the good news is that we do know that Memphis Teacher Residency, their funding has been released. So they will be a competitive continuation for next year, but we don't know what the total amount is federally. And we don't know what our formula allocation is going to be. But in general, looking ahead to the next year, City Year Memphis and Tennessee's Community Assistance Corporation, they both will be at the end of their 3-year competitive grants, and so they will have to recompete. And the staff recommends sending them to the national competitive process as recompeting programs.
Mhm.
Teach for America Nashville Chattanooga is a formula program that's currently at the end of its 3rd year in the formula process. And because they're at the end of their 3rd year in the formula process, staff recommends that we also send them to the national competitive process to compete as a new program. And we recommend that if any of those programs don't get funded, that they drop down into the formula process. And again, Memphis Teacher Residency should, as long as everything works out well and we get the award, they should be a competitive continuation for 2026, which means that they, again, as long as they're performing okay and there aren't any problems, the AmeriCorps agency should approve them for continued funding. On the formula process part, the 3.8, that's what we received this year. And so we, as long as Congress doesn't reduce the amount of funding available, which is a possibility, we expect that that amount will be relatively similar to what we received for the current year. The programs listed here: Appalachia Regional Coalition on Homelessness, Artist Year, Chattanooga Chamber Foundation, Clinch Powell Resource Conservation and Development Council, Emerald Youth Foundation, Knox County Community Action Committee, Literacy Mid-South, Port Elite, Public Education Foundation, Relay Graduate School of Education, and Teach for America Memphis, and the University of the South are all going to be formula continuation programs. And so as long as they don't have any major problems and there aren't major concerns about them, staff recommend that they stay in the formula process as continuation programs. And then staff recommends that the commission consider applications from any new applicants. So that's kind of the proposal for the existing programs for next year. Now, the rest of the timeline is a timeline, but I'll say, you can see we've already passed several of these dates.
Mhm.
The AmeriCorps agency has not yet released their notice of funding opportunity and application instructions, which typically they would have already done at this point. But there are some new requirements at the federal level that all notices of funding opportunity from any federal agency get reviewed by a political appointee before they get released. And we think that that's why the notice has been delayed. So we're asking for the commission to approve this, again, primarily for this stuff at the top of where to put programs that are currently in our portfolio, either competitive or formula. But we know we're going to have to change some of these dates because obviously we don't have the notice yet. And I doubt that we're going to get it in time to release the Tennessee notice by this week. This would be tomorrow. Because even if we got it today, it still would take some time for staff to review it and make changes and edit it to be Tennessee specific. Because that's what we do. We take the federal notice and application instructions, and we turn it into the Tennessee notice and application instructions. So that takes typically about a week to go through that and make those changes. So we know that this timeline is not going to be accurate, but until we know when the notice is actually going to be released at the federal level, there's no way for us to really give you a better timeline. So what we recommend is that you approve this timeline, and then we hope that the notice will be released before the November retreat, and that we can then revise this timeline with actual dates and come back to the full commission in November with a revised timeline with actual dates. And I'm happy to go through any of the dates that we estimated. But again, until we get that federal notice, it's hard to know what the actual dates would be for this timeline.
Does anyone have any comments or questions about the timeline?
Hey, I do. Thanks so much, Jim and the team, for putting together this timeline. I had a follow-up question on if there's a reason why we haven't shifted the dates based off where we are now, just a couple weeks back before we approve this. Is it just because you only, don't want to take the time to revise it once and then have to revise it again?
Well, so this was the version that was presented to the commission on August the 8th. So we wanted to present the same materials that were presented to the full commission.
This is helpful. I just think for record purposes, it's great to acknowledge why we haven't adjusted it, knowing that we've already missed the first 2 and 3 timelines.
Yeah, sure. That's the primary reason, because when the commission met on the 8th, at that point, the only deadline that we had missed was the release. And again, we weren't really sure when that was going to happen anyway. And if we had received it in August, we still could have met this September 11th deadline, but we still haven't received it. So there's no way we can get it out by tomorrow.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a
Betty?
question. I can't find the raise your hand thing on my iPad. This is my 3rd device I tried to work on today. So anyway, here I am. Okay, so Jim, if you could clarify, I know you said this and I was trying to get my head around it. You said we can't release this because the federal government requires that all notices of funding opportunity and application instructions, I believe, have to be approved by a federal official prior to their being sent out. Does that, and maybe you know and maybe you don't know, but does that mean like we anticipate all of them will be approved at one time, or that they are looking at each one specifically and have to approve each one by one, or we don't know?
Yeah, well, sorry. Yeah, let me clarify. The political appointee has to review and approve the federal notice of funding opportunity and the federal application instructions. They're not reviewing individual state notices. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
you. And again, that's our analysis of why the federal notice hasn't been released yet, is because they're political. They do have a political appointee, but he was only appointed within the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So our guess is that it hasn't been released yet because that political appointee hasn't had a chance to review the notice yet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the 2026 AmeriCorps funding timeline as presented?
Moved.
I don't know who that was. Was that
Yvonne.
Destiny? Yvonne. Oh, thank you, Yvonne. Second?
I second.
Eileen, thank you. Jessica, would you please do the roll call vote?
Yes. Destiny?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Betty?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
Yvonne?
Yes.
And then Jessica abstain. All right,
So-
that passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eileen and Jim, and thank you, Jessica. I asked Jim if we could have just a little bit of time to talk about the GVS and the conference. At the time when we met before, we did not have funding. And I wanted to talk about where we are. And is Candace still here with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Candace. Can you give us any updates, any needs that you have that we need to be aware of for the conference, GBSA?
That's a big question. So if you guys have anything like super specific, then I'm willing to dive in. But what Jim has on the screen here is just a general wrap up of where we were, or how we ended, not last year, but the one from this year. So this is just where we landed.
Okay.
So really the issue to conquer right now has changed from last week to this week in full transparency with the KIF budget that we were all just sort of like in limbo on from the OMB office of if it was going to be released, really left us at a space of we don't have any money, and which was pretty much majority, not all of it, but majority of the GVSA and majority of the conference comes from that budget. And I say that loosely, it's just majority. Did you have something, Terry?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So without that funding, it really leaves us in a space of, what to do. Where we are today is that we've gotten hey, the money is there, but we still don't actually tangibly have it to spend funds. Okay. So I just want to kind of make that clear. Of course, since we've gotten it, we should have it tangibly in hand here pretty soon, hopefully, but that doesn't speak for next year. And so where that leaves us is options, right? Like for the conference, we can continue its business as usual. We can go back to the Marriott. We can have the GVSA. It's a one-stop shop. It's very convenient for everybody. It has that recognition that that's where it's going to be every year. If the committee chooses to take a different route, because what Jim has here are the finances that really break down what we spent, the revenue that we brought in. It kind of gives you a picture view of the monies of where we stand. So my question to you guys is this really like feasible for us to do for the 2026 conference and the 2025 Governor's Volunteer Stars Awards? I have my recommendations that I'm willing to share with you guys on how to do this and where to do this, but I have the cautionary tale of we don't know what next year looks like, even with the conversation that we just had about our notice of funding not being available for us to even present. It really, in my opinion, puts the funding for the conference and the funding for GVSA sort of in the same boat of us not really knowing what 2026 looks like and how to proceed into 26, 27. But that's another conversation for another year. So I will stop there with the context and just ask and open the floor for any questions. Oh, Jessica, do you have 4 questions?
No, I just have one. Oh, maybe
Okay.
2. Well, it's really one.
ahead.
So obviously the conference and GVSA are 2 separate events that we've kind of put together.
Yes.
Are there any requirements for us to have either of these? And I ask that especially since GVSA notes Governor's Volunteer Stars Award. So like,
Okay.
is there any mandate or requirement that either of these events are supposed to happen from, the top? Yeah.
That's a great question. Mandate is a heavy word, Jessica. We're not mandated,
Okay.
but it does complement our KIF, which is our Commissioner's Investment Fund. It does complement the training portion and the outreach for volunteers that we have. Jim could probably, he has his hands up, he can probably speak a little bit more to it, but we have to provide some training for these, but it's just a way for us to complement that grant. But go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so there are no mandates for the Governor's Volunteer Stars Awards. As Candace was just saying, we do have federal mandates to provide training and technical assistance to programs, which is part of the reason why we started doing the statewide conference to begin with, is so that we could have a centralized place to bring together the programs that Volunteer Tennessee funds and, outside members of the volunteer community to do the conference. We can do that training and technical assistance in other ways. So the conference itself is not mandated, but we do have to provide the training and technical assistance to programs that Volunteer Tennessee funds.
Go ahead,
Can
Tim.
I ask
I have a question about the conference, and you've been involved with the conference for several years now. I know Eileen, Greg, Betty, and I have as well. Do you still see this as cost efficient, beneficial for us to continue in terms of presenters, involvement? I mean, I personally, I felt like it's dwindled over the years. I don't see the same enthusiasm I saw, I don't know, back in 2012, 2013, 2014, 15. I just want to know your impression of that.
Of course. So initially when I came in, it was right during COVID. So it has been an interesting climb out of that space. We have climbed out of that space, but I will say that we're just kind of at ground zero if you're rolling with me. But so I have a different opinion on both. So financially, you know, financially, I don't know where we were like when we first started with this.
Mhm.
And we probably brought in, triple the money that was invested. But as of right now, it it is it could be a struggle if we don't have all the things in line, right? Like now, if everything were a perfect picture where we had sponsorships coming in, we sell out all of our seats for our conference and our workshop and our corporate social purpose and all these other things, if we sell out everything and if we're able to, just really get into the nitty gritty of it, then sure, it could be a successful venture. But as of right now, if you define success on financial gain, then I wouldn't necessarily label it as successful for financial gain, but it does have success in other areas that can't be ignored. As far as the training, the in-person collaboration, the service events that we do,
Mhm.
it's specifically the GVSA. I think the GVSA is a wonderful program, and it does have its recognition, but
Mhm.
it just really depends on what metrics you guys consider successful.
Let me give you a part two and then I'll go to Jessica. Have we ever thought about combining the GVSA with some sort of um, a piece of the conference, or kind of having the two, instead of having the conference separate 2 days and the GVSA on Sunday? Have we ever thought about making it a little bit more of a combination venture? Has that ever been discussed?
I think at this point, this is the marriage of the two, because
Mhm.
GVSA at one point in time was separate, completely separate from the conference. It
Mhm.
it was brought together partly because of where we're having it. It just made more sense to put both of them together as far as the
Right.
contracting and meeting all of the check mark, the check mark parts that are about the contract. But I have a couple of suggestions
Okay.
that we could do. Oh my gosh, there's so many hands. So let
Well,
me
Yeah,
what,
well, so
Jessica,
I was like,
and
let
then,
me go to
yeah,
Jim and then I'll
yeah,
follow
sorry,
down from there.
okay.
sorry, I had sorry to bump you, Jessica, but I had specific input on Terry's question. So, um, so the commission has considered, so for example, instead of having the Governor's Volunteer Stars Awards on Sunday, having it on
Mhm.
Monday or Tuesday,
Mm.
to be, more in line with the conference. Um, the the commission has decided not to do that, or decided not to do that in the past, primarily because um, it's really difficult for the attendees to make that trip on a weekday,
Yes.
especially for the the kids, because they would,
Yes.
some of them might have to miss school to be able to be there. And so having it on Sunday allows people to come and get back home essentially on the same day without
Mhm.
having to miss work or having to miss school and all that kind of. So that's where the discussion has been in the past. Now we can certainly reconsider that.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. Let's see, Destiny, then Nathan.
Well, no,
Eh,
it was
Jessica?
It was Jessica next.
Yeah.
She put her hand
So
down.
I know the
didn't know.
federal requirement to provide training and technical assistance is a requirement, and that's what we use the conference for. Looking at the registered attendees, though, it looks like only 10% of those that attend are those members that we're supposed to be providing that to. And so is it more of just a checkbox that we're providing it, or are we after the conference having to go back to the members that didn't attend to then provide that training and technical assistance? Does that question make sense?
Mhm.
It does, but so if I can just on the chart, the AmeriCorps / AmeriCorps seniors, those are actual members. The program staff are included in the general adult registration, so it's more than 10%.
So
I mean,
then,
it's not.
do we have an idea of the percentage of the programs that are attending? Because I think that's what's going to help us decide whether or
Yeah.
not to continue this, or if we need to do a different route. Because if we only have a small percentage of the programs actually attending for something that we're federally required to do, I think that kind of will help make the decision.
I don't know the percentage right offhand of programs that attended. Candace may know. So we, in addition to offering them the general conference sessions, we have a specific AmeriCorps program session that we have for all the AmeriCorps programs. Now, some of them participate in that virtually, but then the ones that are there for the conference are obviously participate in that in person. But I don't know. Candace, do you know right offhand how many programs attended in person this past year?
So I don't know right offhand the number of programs, and I can follow up with you about that. But as far as actual people, it's probably about 30 to 40 actual people that are closely connected or directly connected with AmeriCorps, just from our programs, the program directors and the members that come.
I want to
That-
say we're at 11:26 right here, and now it's 11:27. So I'm going to go to Destiny, and then Nathan, and then Betty.
So I'm going to say my question. Candace, please, you can follow up with it so everyone else can get a chance to answer their questions. But I would like to know the value add that is being added. Like when we're surveying the attendees, what's the value that they're saying they're getting from this? I would like to know why we haven't considered putting the conference and the training in one day. So the first half being the training, and then everyone who needs to come to the conference, to the award ceremony can come at the end. And then third, have we considered partnering with our state parks at their lodges to do our programming there? So like Montgomery Bell, really good opportunity to connect with, spend the money there wisely. My fourth question is the money that we don't use here, is it a line item yearly, or can we roll it over to the next fiscal year as we're saving money? And then my fifth question is, can we turn these into investments to pull apart and then have a pull aside that we can use, since we know funding is very fluctuating at right now? So those are 5 questions. I don't expect the answer because I also have a hard stop at 11:30, but if I can just get the answers to those. Thank you.
I got you. And following with that, Nathan, if I could follow up with your question, then awesome. If I can answer it now, awesome. But please get your question on the docket.
Yes. So one's a question, one's a comment. The first
Yeah.
is more of a comment. So just hearing this discussion, one of the things I struggle with the conference, which I think is probably demonstrative of the problem at the conference, is in most of this discussion, we're talking about the conference primarily from the lens of it being an AmeriCorps centered initiative. Whether that is correct or incorrect, that's how we're currently talking about it. Going back to where we're currently at with planning our state plan, thinking through those goals and objectives of thinking through our other stakeholders, the nonprofits, the volunteers themselves, nonprofit professionals, corporate partners, I feel as though one of the things that is holding us back with the conference is is not maybe fully leaning into that, not fully leaning into the other opportunities that exist. Because I've gone to some other state conferences that are service or volunteer centered that are wildly well attended by nonprofit partners. I don't know if that's not really who we market our event to, and that's not really how we engage. And but I think our conversation now kind of demonstrated that to me. The second piece, and I'm going to piggyback off of exactly what Destiny just said. I mean, just looking at your breakdown for the conference, GVSA aside, 30% of your budget is AV. That is insane. And I know that's just the nature of the hotel that we're at and the way we have to plan it. I would be open to trying to think through, assuming we continue with the conference, of thinking through creative avenues to navigate this. Does the conference need to move? Does the conference need to be hosted somewhere? I mean, I even think about, like, I could host the conference here in our student conference center on campus, and you would have zero costs for AV, zero costs for equipment rental if I put my name on it, right? Like that, like there's avenues for that. And I think Destiny's example of like state parks is an example of that. So part of me also says, one, are we continuing it? But two, I think there's value in thinking through flipping the script and getting really creative with it. And I'm sure you probably have some thoughts, but don't have to answer any of that now. That's just my thoughts.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Nathan. Betty?
You're on mute.
Quickly, I just want to say that I agree with everything that was said and the questions that I think Nathan and Destiny are bringing are really important ones. Yes, we did used to have the GVSA on Sunday, and we actually started the conference on Sunday evening for students. We had a very strong youth track of about 80 students who came from different schools across the state. We've, after the pandemic or during, lost that. I think that we had a lot of schools that were participating. We did have nonprofits, and I do believe reaching out, for whatever reason, it seems as if it has focused more on AmeriCorps, but if there's some way that we can reach out through our State Department, if we can reach out through our educational systems and our nonprofit partners and get out there, we do have a really good opportunity to have a viable, active, invigorating conference.
Thank you, Betty. And Destiny?
Destiny's frozen. I
Sorry,
think
my
that
hand
Oh, she's
just
frozen.
didn't come down. My bad.
Okay.
I don't have any more. I mean, I have more questions, but
Okay.
they've all been covered. I think we'll be
Okay.
fine.
I think it's really important that we continue this discussion. And I know that the next time we're going to meet together is in November. But I really feel that the comments that are made here are valid. I know I had mentioned with Adam a couple of other places that we might consider if we could cut some expenses with the place that we're having this, but also just our goal and our vision for the conference. I think we really need to talk about that. Jim, do you have any comments you want to make before we end this discussion today?
Yeah, well, my only comment would be if we want to move forward with the conference this coming spring, we need that decision really soon, because especially if we're going to change locations, we'll have to find that location and do the agreement with the hotel, conference center, whatever it is. So staff need to know that really soon so that we can be making or adjusting our plans.
Do we need to have
That's what I was
a
going to say.
meeting?
So if Candace could get the responses to
doodle
those
poll?
questions, and then we could have kind of an ad hoc meeting well, I guess it's just another executive meeting, but I'm sure Jim could send out a poll for another time just so we can continue this conversation and not feel so rushed.
Candace, how does that sound to you?
That sounds perfect to me. If
Okay.
we are considering and making sure that we have this conversation and a decision made by the end of September, that would be super helpful for me, and it gives me enough time to readjust things, because the date that we have now is specifically for the hotel. But if we decide not to do the hotel, then we won't feel so rushed with that specific date in March. We can look at the new venue on what dates they offer. But I do need that decision. So if we could, I'm happy to bend my schedule for you guys. That's no problem at all. And I'll get the answers to those questions out.
And
Thank
Candace, We of course
Yes,
have our
thank you.
committee, we have our committee meeting on Friday, so feel free. I mean, it's already on the agenda to talk about this, so if we need to get some additional feedback from some people that aren't on this call, I'm
Yeah.
fine if the majority of our conversation on Friday is about the conference. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I appreciate your support, Nathan.
And
So
Terry, can I,
Jim, if you'll send out a doodle poll
Yeah.
for this committee and yes, go ahead.
well, no, I was just going to add about that. Can everybody commit to responding to that doodle poll by the end of this week?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So because we'll need to, if we want to have it by the end of the month, we'll need to do the public notice, which we have to do at least a week before the meeting. Well, we don't have to, but we do it a week before the meeting. So we'll need to get that that scheduled as quickly as we can.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to move to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to address the executive committee during the public comment period must make a request by email or phone to Jim Snell no later than 2 business days in advance of the meeting date. Comments must be relevant to the published agenda items. Yes, published agenda items. Jim, did we receive any requests for public comment?
No, we did not.
Okay. Are there any final questions or comments? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Betty, in a
Yes.
second.
Second,
Eileen. Okay, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate this discussion and we'll continue it in our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
everybody.
much.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks,
Bye.
Candace.
Bye.
Thanks, Candace. See you, Betty.